All right. Good morning. It's 8:02 and I wanted to respect everyone's time. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Welcome to the UN-CSW, the 66th session. We're so excited that you were able to join us. For those of you on the East Coast with me, 8 a.m., the first day after daylight savings time started is a bit of a push, but I really appreciate everyone joining us for this conversation with some of our wonderful alumni on how Karama's leadership program empowers Muslim female change makers in local communities, because that is something that we are really passionate about here at Karama. So, for you guys who don't know, my name is Rama Abdul Alim. I'm the executive director of Karama Muslim Women Lawyers for Human Rights. We are going to be celebrating, inshallah, our 30th year next year in 2023. We were founded in 1993, so that makes us the oldest women led Muslim nonprofit in the United States. We were founded by Dr. Aziza Al Hibri, and our name, Karama, comes from chapter 17, verse 70 of the Holy Quran that says, "We have given dignity to all the children of Adam." We feel that it's very important that everyone is treated with dignity, with Karama. And so we really take that verse as our vision for Karama and really looking at human rights on so many different levels. And one of the things we look at is through our flagship program of encouraging Muslim women to be leaders in their community. And we feel it's so important that women take that vital role of leadership in our throughout our communities. Too often women are kind of relegated to positions in, if at all, if they have any positions at all in local Muslim communities. And we feel that that is something that has been missing for too long from our Muslim communities. And so with our Law and Leadership Summer Program, which is this year celebrating its 20th class. So we're super excited for our 20th class. We really teach women about Islamic laws, the foundation of law. And, I was a religion major undergrad. I took a lot of Islam classes. And when I took the Law and Leadership Summer Program, even I was transformed by some of the things that I thought I knew about Islam that I still did not know. And so it's learning Islamic law through our Law and Leadership Summer Program was so powerful for me. And then learning about conflict resolution from the leading conflict resolution person in the Islamic world, and then learning about leadership. Sometimes we think about leadership in such a vacuum, like, oh, if we're not in this position, we're not leaders. And so I really wanted to take this time today to talk to some of our alums who are doing fabulous things, totally different things, showing that you don't have to just be a Muslim woman lawyer to actually appreciate and really be motivated by our program. Our program is open to everyone. Our in-person program had only ever been open to women, but because we've had to be virtual the last couple of years, we have invited men to share as well, because it's really important for us that everyone knows about the gender equitable foundations of Islam. We here at Quran are very passionate about that. We are not saying, oh, we're feminists and we're going to rewrite. Anybody who knows Dr. El-Hibri, and I'm sure these three ladies can tell you because they have sat through her lectures, she is passionate about the Quran. She is not trying to go outside of the words of the Quran to show the gender equitable foundations. And I think that's very important to share, because I think too often people think, oh, they're coming from someplace else. They're going to some scholar that nobody, like believes, and they're no, we're going from really the foundation of Islam. We're going to the Quran. And so it was very important for us to share with these three alums who are wonderful. And I can't wait for us to have this conversation about how the Law and Leadership Summer Program affected them and affected their lives. So we have with us today, and I'm only going to give their first names. If they want to share their last names, I'll let them do it. But so Ambreen is a leading, she's probably the only one I really know who is really passionate about the environment as a Muslim woman lawyer. You'll see Muslim women lawyers doing almost everything else, but the passion she brings for environmental justice, and it's something that we as a community, I want us to spend more time on, and I know Ambreen does too, because we really need help. So Ambreen is our lawyer of the group. Kafi is the chief financial officer of a local masjid in the DC area. She is wonderful, and Kafi, I have the privilege of knowing her my entire life, so I know that she brings so much to this panel. And then Sarah is someone who went through LLSP and has really connected with KARAMAH on such a deep level. She has started not one, but two nonprofits since she went through the program. And that is wonderful because that really shows that she took our marching orders that we said, go out there, you know, on the first day. I'm almost positive Dr. El Hibri did it every year. The first thing she told them is like, you are leaders. And some of the people in the class were like, we're taken aback, like, are you sure? But she, by the end of the program, most of them left with this, like, you know what? I am a leader. So I want to go ahead and get started. So Ambreen, please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for that introduction. So as Rahma mentioned, I am an environmental lawyer. I do international climate change and clean energy work. I worked on the Paris Agreement. I contributed to its negotiation and its eventual adoption. I also worked on another environmental treaty called the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. Also worked on that negotiations and contributed to its adoption. And then as I was consulting, I formed my own law firm here in Washington, DC, and then expanded into implementing those treaties. So when I stand in the room with representatives from many countries and different international organizations and multinational corporations, I am often the only Muslim woman in the room doing what I do. And I am the only, person of my background and quite often the youngest. So KARAMAH really gave me that foundation to have that confidence in myself and to really understand my place in the world.
Thank you. Kafi, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, assalamu alaikum. Kafi Knox McDowell, originally from Philadelphia, second generation Muslim. I work at Masjid Muhammad, the nation's mosque. We do a lot of work in social services, providing food distributions, services for seniors. We're working on a senior housing program where we're going to provide 81 unit apartment building for housing for seniors. In addition to that, we work a lot in the interfaith space, internationally and domestically. I do a lot of work in engaging my peers to get involved in community. I've done that actually all my life because a lot of young Muslims, I found out it's not just Muslims, young people are not involved in community life as we need to, so we can have that succession of building family and communities and make it whole. And it's important that we are encouraging them to have a space first to be present, and as well as having a responsibility of that leadership as well. So what else? KARAMAH. The leadership program was so wonderful for me. Although in our communities, we have women are in roles of leadership, but it encouraged you to move forward more inside of the space of the religious part, because it's a male-dominated environment. So I guess we'll talk a little bit more about that. So that's kind of it. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much, Rahma. And I'm so glad I'm today together with all those leaders, celebrating KARAMAH and celebrating the work that the leaders who have graduated from the program are planting in all over the world in different causes. My name is Sarah Abdel. I am the founder and CEO of Thrivers on the Move. It's a social enterprise, and Thrivers Philanthropies, it's a nonprofit organization. The two organizations are aiming towards empowering women in every aspect of the world. Immigrant women specifically, minorities, and Muslim women, and of course non-Muslim women. It's very inclusive. And I actually, dared to dream of having my own organizations because of the seed that was planted in the program, in addition to many other factors. But the fact that I was hearing many true concepts and notions about Islam, about women in Islam. I myself, even though that I started my journey studying Islam, I was born in a Muslim country overseas, and I perceived a lot of the notions, started memorizing Quran, the holy book, for Muslim people. And it's kind of, I thought that I understand things, but I always had these questions, specifically when you are in a collective society or masculine predominant society, where patriarchal notions are, covering probably many aspects of women. So I guess that the surprise when I attended the program was exceptionally in like giving me the enlightenment, not just like, to go out and be a professional and leader and do this and that, but also the individual understanding that helped me after this frame my understanding of the world. How can I be the only Muslim woman giving like training on interfaith and peace building in the Christian Unity Conference with almost like 50 pastors and ministers, and then working as a policy advocate with interfaith groups. And always when someone asks me how you're doing what you're doing, I say my faith encourages women. And I found them asking after that a lot of questions. And I guess this kind of enlightenment and clear perception of myself as a Muslim woman, as an active community member, has guided me throughout many journeys that I'm sure we will come to it, knowing about all the leaders, and Ambreen and Kafi and everyone talking here. You will notice how that foundation that was laid, how the discussions, sometimes the disagreements, because we disagreed a lot. And Dr. El-Hebri, how she is always encouraging this kind of discussion. And so I actually, if I would just summarize that sentence, it's kind of, I felt important as a Muslim woman. I felt heard as a Muslim woman. And that definitely shaped my attitude, my studies after this, and practice in the world. And just daring to have my two own organizations, I guess that, I can attribute this to God, of course, first and last, and to the program, and for strengthening my desire to be an active member of the community. Thank you, Rahma.
Thank you. So let's go back to Ambreen. Ambreen, what year did you go to Law and Leadership Summer Program? And then what attracted you to the program in the beginning?
That's a good question. I might be saying this wrong, but I think I did it in 2015, if I remember. That was 2015 was the year I joined. And what attracted me was actually a very personal connection that I already had with KARAMAH. So I had gotten to know your predecessor, Aisha Rahman, pretty well, and she was the one who suggested I apply. KARAMAH was actually helping me with a very personal situation in my life, and they were working with me on the ground to kind of figure out a problem and how to solve it. And so I was having this difficult sort of personal uphill battle. I was also like trying to think about consulting and starting my own company. So I had, some professional challenges. And then, Aisha really talked to me about this program, and I had already gotten to know a little bit about KARAMAH and kind of what they do. But really like kind of explaining me how I could approach Islamic knowledge from a systemic way, from a very organized and structured way. So she was the one who encouraged me to join. I looked into a little bit more and I applied, and then ended up in the program.
All right. So, Kafi, what attracted you to the Law and Leadership Summer Program?
Okay. I went through the program in 2019. Actually, I think you were the one that asked me about it. So, but I had several, after you asked me about it, I had several sisters that I knew in my circle that actually took the course. And they were like, oh, no, you must go. Like, this is like, you have to go. You cannot say no to this. So I was told it was a very life-changing experience, in your perspective of, as a Muslim woman, it would change and shift through the program, because it was so enriching, and it gives you a different perspective in looking at Al-Islam. And that really intrigued me. So I said, hey, I must go and experience this experience that they were sharing with me. So that's basically what pushed me out there to go.
Okay. And Sarah, what pushed you, or what attracted you to the Law and Leadership Summer Program? And what year did you?
Uh, Right. I joined in 2018, and I heard about it first from a friend. She's a Muslim leader, and she was like, you know what, this program is for you. And then when I started like signing up for the newsletter from Karama and receiving different like recommendations and endorsement from the leaders who joined before me, hearing and knowing actually about their profile and portfolios and the kind of work that they are doing, that offered me the credibility. That's number one. And number two, I was so curious about the knowledge and the delivery, because what they have been saying about the different theoretical and practical sides of the program, you come at a point of your professional career or educational journey that you can tell which program is really well designed, strongly designed. And I can tell that the program was and is and will be more sophisticated. It was highly designed, and I was extremely curious about the delivery, because I said, this is very sophisticated, how the scholars or the teachers or the professors. And oh my goodness, we have met not only Islamic scholars, we have met lawyers, we have met conflict resolution the professors, and we learned a lot of things. And it wasn't only in the classroom. So I kept on being curious how the application of what in this program. And I should tell you that I was in the first day of attending the program when we received our that big file, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of reading. And it reminded me of school, like, no, please, that's a lot of reading. But then it was delivered in a very meaningful way, in a very thoughtful way that kept on um just, if I may use the word provoking, but in the positive connotation, meaning provoking us, the reflection, the questions, and even allowing ourselves to be upset and angry about certain notions about women. And I remember myself asking Dr. El-Hibri in one of the occasions, and the beauty of having a discussion, of having an argument that's not like a fake argument, or someone just wants you to know that Islam is the best religion. No, it's just like a scholarly understanding and discussion, and allowing ourselves just to be human beings and to think about all the aspects and to give a voice to our weird opinions sometimes. Yeah, so I was so happy attending the program.
So all three of you had a slightly different experience because of what year you went, who was in charge. Kafi went to the executive session, which was a week. And Brian and Sarah went to the 3 week session when it was in person. I saw a question in the chat that, what's the structure? When we're in person, it's about a full time commitment. It is 40 hours, at least 40 hours. Actually, I'm being nice. It's more than 40 hours. It is 9 to 5. The years that Kafi and Sarah went, we actually took a field trip out of town, and that was like the longest day ever, from like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So we spent a lot of time together, and that is just in the classroom. A lot of things happen. You should be surprised. As someone who's working, I'm like, are these people leaving? People didn't want to leave at the end of the day because they were sitting around talking to their fellow participants, and they were like, wow, I learned something new. And I'd be like, are they going to chat all night? Like, when are they going to leave? And I think a lot of what happened outside of just hearing a lecture from one of our professors or our instructors. It was really taking that and really over lunch talking about it during breaks, because I'd be like, guys, the break is to go to the bathroom, the break is to get prayer, and people would still be talking during. So really, what impact did LLSP have on you, either during the program or after the program, that you can share with us? So Ambrina, you can go first.
Sure. So one of the first things that Dr. El-Hibri said that made a huge impression on me was if you're looking for me to tell you that Islam is about making the two genders equal, that's not what I'm going to say. Islam is pro-female. Women have more rights under Islam. That was something that had never been said so clearly and so specifically to me. And then, this was at the beginning of the program, and then walking us through, Dr. Al-Hibri's has a background in philosophy as well. And really, she would take a hadith or she would take a passage from the Quran and walk us through it in a very logical manner. And in prior classes, when I had been attending lectures or, I did a lot of the traditional sort of Islamic education, I've been in those venues before and talked with scholars. They kind of tear you down to build you back up. And they kind of put you in a position of, well, you don't really know what you're talking about. And we're just giving you the tip of the iceberg. Dr. Al-Hibri's approach was, let me give you some tools and let's see what you come up with, and give you that opportunity to flex that intellectual muscle and come to it with the natural internal logic that you have inside of you. And then she would explain why that was correct. And that was a very empowering process to kind of feel like someone was pulling you up and allowing you the chance to stand on your own 2 feet and see something very clearly, which for many of us was for the first time. So I think those 2 things, really understanding that it was giving women more rights than men, and really understanding how to walk through something, that exposure to that way of thinking about Islamic law is not something that I would say 90% of us who've been in the program have been able to be exposed to. So.
Okay. Kafi, what impact did LLSP have on you?
It actually encouraged me to start looking at the Quran in a different kind of way, and actually sharing with other sisters the importance of that, because we normally just go through the male perspective of all of this, right? And it's important. Allah created male and female, so and if you don't have both of those at the table, you're at a deficit. You're not able to get the fullness of what it is that Allah has in our own creation. And through the processes of what was presented at the actual conference, although it was short, short, long, and fast, it really started to change my perspective of being able to start to talk to other sisters and younger women, to actually look at themselves and the importance of them having different eyes, and that it was okay to have a different perspective and a different a new look at the actual at the Quran, Islam, what you have actually been taught and what you believe as your own values. So some of those things you had to unpack and then say, okay, consider this. So it kind of it forced you to want to restructure your thinking. You don't just take it as face value. When you're young, you're Muslim, people say, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what Muslims do. You start to read the tenets of Islam. You start to read the hadith. So you're reading all these things, but now it's giving you, okay, now it's time to look at this, but you're looking through it a different lens, a different set of eyes. So I think that was the main thing that was encouraging for me during that experience.
Thank you. So Sarah, what impact did LLSP have?
All right, I will try, just to remember the basic ones, because I need probably more hours, to cover this. But I will start with the diversity of the group. I haven't, there were young women from France, from UK, from Poland. Some of them were reverts or converts to Islam. Some of them didn't even feel that. And I remember one of my friends, because now they are friends and family, was saying, I thought I'm a bad Muslim. you know, in that sense, and how she felt after the program, that actually she is allowed even to think that she is a bad Muslim or not a practicing Muslim, and then consider what kind of actions she wants, and still believe that God loves her the way she is because she is a woman. And many of these thoughts you can notice that with the difference of geography. Okay, the main impact on women, generally speaking, okay, and it's not hypothetically, it's generally because I have seen it with different diverse groups. We keep on doubting ourselves in so many ways. So I'm a gender studies trainer, and my focus is on sexual and gender-based violence. I give many trainings on diversity, inclusion, equity, and equality. And meeting many women from different places, it always surprises me how the foundation of most of the issues happening, we are a reflection of so deep causes. And one of the causes is the misconceptions in Islam. And later on, I remember that Karama had a series of debunking the myth of 1, 2, 3, 4, because I cannot hide, I cannot, ignore, I cannot just pretend that nothing is happening, that as a Muslim woman, nothing in the society is telling me not to be financially free. And the impact of having the right notions. So when I graduated in the Faculty of Languages, our professors were always telling us, don't start translation before going to the dictionary. And in the program, I remember, and I still do that, how it's very important to ask, oh, what's the verse that you are referring to? What's the context that you're referring to? Because this is the second part. Which hadith, and learning about the science of hadith, even though I studied, like you, Rahma, many classes on Islam, it was again laid out and delivered in the most beautiful and scholarly, but not complicated. It's sophisticated, that to the point that out of being sophisticated, it was delivered in the most simple way to pace the understanding of everyone. So that was something. But the most important impact that later on, my focus was, how can I empower women all over? Okay, that was the question. And as you know, those kind of universal questions come and go, and we feel like, oh, I can be a lawyer, or I can be a social justice activist, which actually I can be a professor, which actually I have done all of that. And the quest of these journeys, tell you something and build again another, or put another brick in that building of what exactly that I want to do. And the impact, I would say, was again giving trust of myself as a Muslim woman, and being proud that I'm a Muslim woman. And it's not shame or, like, forbidden to say I got my activism side because of Islam. I have been taught how Muslim women were doing, and what their impact at the age of Prophet Muhammad, or the early ages of Islam, and over the history. And uh, just finally about this thought, I guess the impact was seeing the professors, and definitely Dr. Aziza and our scholar Ghada Ghazal and Dr. Amra Abdullah, and the lawyer who actually brought us, Dr. Abid Awad, who brought us like cases, real cases, where how the Islamic law was implemented, even though that I am not a lawyer, but this helped me to see how the knowledge will always be enlightening, and will be pushing away the darkness of patriarchy, the darkness of those who say that Islam doesn't give women power. It's actually your interpretation of Islam, but not the real one. Because I will always go back to the book, I will always go back to the context. Thank you, Rahma.
Thank you so much. And that leads perfectly to the quote that I always give of Dr. El-Hibri, that I'm sure I've shared this so many times. People are like, we know what quote she's going to give. But Dr. El-Hibri says it so like it's not a big deal. And you're like, wow, it's so deep. She says, culture divides us, but the Quran unites us. And it's such a short sentence, but it says so much, because the diversity of people who've gone through the Law and Leadership program, whether or not they are like international or domestically here, the age ranges. So some people are like, oh, you have to be, a law student in your 20s. I mean, we've had young women as young as 17, 18 about to start college up to retirees age or in their 70s, just wanting knowledge. We accept everyone who is willing and open to really discuss issues that have been around for so long. And it was just putting this program together that we are really unpacking some of the things that we all thought were like, oh, no one ever told me that before. And, all of us saying, like, nobody ever mentioned this to me before, and why not? And really getting from Dr. Hibri, like, well, did you not know that? Did you not know the context? Because I thought that was great what Sarah said about, knowing the context of it, because people are always wanting to quote to you from the Quran. You're like, do you know why that's there? Can you actually do you know why that happened? Do you know why that was revealed? And most people not. So if you guys can give us something that you learned or something that happened during the Long Leadership Summer Program that you would like to share. So, Ambreen.
Sure. There are so many things that stayed with me through that program. Speaking of never having heard certain things, I thought that there were little moments where Dr. El-Hibri pointed out, for example, if you are with your husband and he wants to invite his friends over to come, to host them at your house, how you're not obligated to cook for them, how actually you can ask to have him provide for, either pay for catering or provide for them, how Islam is so considerate of. A lot of times we talk about in Western feminism about how women are invisible, and the problem with Western feminism not acknowledging the free labor that women were giving in the first place. And so what's enlightening about the way that the way that I kind of had to unlearn some of that when I took the LLSP program was understanding that Islam already provided for women to be compensated for the labor they provide on an everyday basis, whether it's breastfeeding children or the housework that they do around chores and cleaning the home and preparing it, and all of the things that we would probably call sweat equity in the law when we talk about divorce. That Islam already provided for those things, so many years ago, before that was, I guess you call it progressive now, but Islam was progressive already. So those things definitely stuck with me. There was another thing that really stuck with me, because this is something that everybody, I think, who comes to the LLSP program has a question about, and it's verse 434. In the Quran, there's a verse that people have taken to mean that they can inflict violence against women if there is a disagreement. And this is the conflict resolution part of LLSP. So there's law, leadership, and conflict resolution. And again, going back to what I said earlier, Dr. El-Hibri took the verse, went back to the source, explained the context, as Sarah was saying, walked through each and every piece of it in a very logical, philosophical manner, talking about the levels of conflict resolution using logic and applying it directly to the Quran, using that process of personal ijtihad and empowering us to understand how and why those interpretations were illogical, and how and why these interpretations of, how impossible it would be for the Quran or for Allah to actually grant the ability to inflict violence on women, how illogical that actually is. And using the Quran and using her depth of knowledge of Arabic to explain why that is. And honestly, I felt like that was one piece of knowledge I walked away with that I own truly. I've had so many conversations with it, about it with other people since that time. And when I explain it to them that way, they get curious, just like you're saying, and say, well, I never heard that before. And I said, well, if you join this program, you will hear that, and you will see that way of logic and that way of thinking applied to so many different aspects of the Quran and the tradition. So I could go on and on, but I'll stop there.
All right. Kafi, can you share something?
I think for me it's more in a social context. I I was able to be exposed to so many different women from all over the world and learn about their circumstance. Particularly for us in our community, we were put in places of leadership. We were able to move around and basically, just grow and do whatever it is that we want to do in community. And there are so many women across the world that are just really their voices are being muted by maleness. They're not able to just go, oh, I want to do a program or I want to do this. They don't have that same kind of freedom because what they're bringing to the table is not being respected. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, is that I was able to experience that and see other perspectives and appreciate my own perspective, my own experience even more, because that's a blessing in itself as well. So I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Okay. And for Coffee and I grew up in Philadelphia, and one year we took them, well, 2 years we took them to Philadelphia. And for us, going to the masjid was no big deal, and being welcomed as a woman was no big deal. And we were like, and I was amazed by, there was a sister from Pakistan who came up to me, and my father's an imam, and said, can I speak to your father? I'm like, he right over there, he's talking to everybody. And she started crying because she had never been allowed to
Wow.
speak to an imam. And it's something that Kafi and I took for granted because we were like,
Hmm.
we got cook-ons for him while we were playing outside. Like, we could never get him to stop talking to us. But for a lot of people, they never had that interaction before. And I think that's something that the program had
Hmm.
brought to so many people who were like, wait a second, there is another way that Islam can be really effectual in our lives because we can connect with other people, and it's not like imams or somebody that we can't talk to. So just building off what Kafi said, it's like we took for granted what we grew up with. We thought that everybody had it.
Hmm.
And realizing that everybody doesn't have this and exposing them to it was a great thing. So, Sarah, something that you wanted to share that you either learned or remembered from LLSP?
Absolutely. Uh, I guess it was the disruptive nature of the program without being aggressive. That always was and is still, like, very, very clear. And I keep on focusing on this because in my encounters with different communities, with different cultures, with meeting specifically that I'm working most of the time, if not all of the time, with immigrants coming from different countries, from the Middle East, from Asia, that have been impacted strongly by um, the coded fake Islam, not the true one. And as you said, many regulations that have nothing to do with Islam or with the right notion of faith. So I remember that I was upset from one of these notions when it was offered, or actually two, when I knew, like, I was born and raised in Egypt, but immigrated to the United States. But at the same time, I didn't know a lot about what's happening in the community to many women. I mean, if you don't experience it yourself, sometimes you're isolated. And I remember that Dr. Hebri, where when we were talking about female genital mutilation, and how that Egypt is one of the highest numbers impacting women with this crime. I cannot call it anything else. And I guess everyone, I felt how we were angry and upset that uh, the religion is being used, or at this moment abused or misused, in order to justify a crime. And this crime is not only physical. And then what amazed me was how we can disrupt the narrative, how we can address, and yes, we can allow ourselves to be angry, we can allow ourselves to be upset. Okay, we need to be giving our emotions the right name, as we learned in psychology, and how to vent that. But what would happen after that, and how should we reflect? Because still, those people who are doing this kind of interpretation of Islam, they consider themselves Muslim, or whatever the faith is, because you will find this like a model in different other faith contexts. So it's not only Islam. And that told me something, that It's not the religion, it's not the faith. How can I sit and talk to a person who's saying, Islam told me to beat my woman. Islam told me to force her to have sex. And like, discuss with them politely and diplomatically marital rape, and let them understand that nothing in Islam has to do with female genital mutilation or cutting. Nothing has encouraged beating women, but it is your understanding. But in the program, I learned not to blame, first of all, not to say, hey, how are you doing this? Or you're a criminal. I mean, I will give it the name. I'm not afraid to say that. But I learned from Dr. Hibri specifically how she brings those different disruptive notions, but in the most welcoming way. And this is how the person or the group on the other side of the table can sit with you and talk. And from here, while talking, I guess understanding will be there. So it was amazing how the whole context was provided, the scientific aspect of the myth, the religious misconception, the conflict resolution, the cultural one. I remember in the program you brought a public health practitioner, actually, Ms. Ghada Khan. I remember her name because she explained, and then the scholarly aspect of that's not in a hadith, that's not in a strong one. And then we went through everything. So here, the medical, the religious and scholarly and theological, if I can say it, and then conflict resolution aspect and how can we deal it in our modern life. So that offered me a model for everything else that I'm angry about or upset about. Usually I remember that exactly because I was really upset, and Dr. Hebri walked me through how she's doing that without really, because I can imagine I'm talking to the people who are actually applying these crimes, whatever the crime is, domestic violence, which are like, the focus of my work in order to protect and empower women. Yeah, so that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, um, I think that complete a lot, but why should people, men and women, apply for the program? Like, what is it about the program? Because people self-select. It's not as if something that you're required to do. People self-select to come to the program. But what would you tell people why they should come? Why should they should take the time? And with the virtual program, because I explained the in-person, the virtual program is on the weekends. It is 3 hours per day on Saturday and Sunday for 3 weeks. So it's less of a time commitment than taking off a week from work or taking off 3 weeks from work in the summer. So the virtual program is on the weekends. But why should people even give up 6 hours on the weekend? 18 hours total. Why should they give up that time to do something that, didn't you learn this, in your madrasa class when you were younger? Like, what is it about LLSP that should motivate people to say, you know what, I want to check out what they're about? So, Ambreen?
That is a great question. A lot of people think that they've learned a lot about Islam from other scholars, from other lectures. I think the theme of what we've been talking about today, we've said we've had to unpack things we've previously learned. We've said we've been exposed to things we've never heard before, or a way of thinking that we've never had the ability to apply to the tradition and specifically the Quran before. We've talked about the access to scholars that we have not had on that plane, on that level playing field of being able to speak to and use them as resources. And they're available to us after the LLSP program. I don't know about my colleagues here, but I've contacted those scholars numerous times afterwards for specific questions. But really, one thing I want to emphasize is a lot of what is covered in LLSP applies to everyday life. Every single day, I use this knowledge. The kinds of things that are covered in Islamic law relate to marriage, to divorce, to relationships, to conflict resolution, to speaking up and using your voice. I thought it was so beautiful what you said earlier about how you felt seen as a Muslim woman, you felt heard as a Muslim woman. And this applies to men too, in this age of Islamophobia and people defining who we are for us. Feeling seen and feeling heard and belonging, that sense of belonging, studies show that that's one of the most important human needs that there is. So having that communal space to feel like you're belonging to something that is within something that you're already wanting so much to be a part of. You want to be closer to Allah. You want to develop that relationship with Allah and also your other fellow Muslim community members, and the leaders that help provide that kind of guidance that you need in everyday life. Every single problem that comes up in your life, Karama gives you those tools to think through them, to use that method of logic, the methodology to solve your problems, but also some basic baseline level of knowledge about families, about your work life. We all have trouble speaking up at work and having that leadership. We all have interpersonal conflicts, having that conflict resolution piece and understanding how to approach things, as Sarah said, in a diplomatic way. Giving you those skills and making you feel empowered and making you feel like, hey, I always have this group to back me up. They always have my back. I always can go back to them if I need more knowledge or specifics about a situation. So I would say it applies to every single day in your life. And I can't say that about any other lecture or workshop that I've attended, something that stayed with me. So it's truly life-changing. And I specifically want to encourage men to join. I think it's so important for them to have, for many of them who have never had exposure to understanding the Quran in a very logical and structured way, to really, it's just part of something that they need to know and that they should know, but it will also give them the kind of foundation that we need to be able to talk to them about the kinds of things that we go through on an everyday basis. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Coffee?
What she said. No, she did a great job unpacking that. I would add to that, the environment that we're living in now, it's creating a space where you have to engage in a different kind of way with each other, male, female, cultural, and everything. So I think that I also want to emphasize the males actually coming to engage in this workshop, because I think we'll get even more out of it, because now they're open to this discussion. So I always say you always have to have those two sides. Allah created us both here to create the best picture and worldview of the experience, the human experience. So if you're lacking one side of it, you're not going to get the full picture of what it is that he's trying to push us to. So I think this is an environment now that it's time to reconsider some of the ways that we think and how we approach life all in itself. And Al-Islam is that tool that we use. I think that it's an opportunity for you to be able to do it in a structured kind of way. And for young women, older women, for women, I think I said this a little earlier, it's important for you to know what your worth is and what your place is in Al-Islam. So this is an opportunity to actually see yourself through another lens. Like one time, I don't want to keep going back, but in our class, Dr. El-Hibri told us about, I think it was Indonesia. She went to like a conference there. And then she gave this beautiful talk and this beautiful speech. But then at the end, she said, well, go in your Quran, surah such and such, ayah such and such. And these young ladies didn't even have a Quran to read. Like they were getting the Al-Islam from their husbands. So like it really tells you that you really have to do this thing for yourself as well. You really need to have your own relationship and connection to what Allah has that's inside of you. He created each one of us for something specific. So it points to you the importance of you going inside of you to be able to bring that out. So that's all. Thank you.
Sarah?
So, why should I advise others, whether they are males or females? Because really, they will have a different perspective to attend the program. I would say don't miss a chance of having a rebirth journey differently. I mean, it was impactful in the true sense because it was different, first of all. Okay, it wasn't just like giving information, it wasn't just having discussion and being nice and being negatively diplomatic. No, it was real. It dig deep into the roots of everything, of what's right and what's wrong. And it was more important to develop us and offers us the skills and the roadmap on how to proceed further. And practicing this for this period, sometimes we attend the session for 1 hour and it has an impact, but it goes away in like, very quickly, even though it's very impactful. But I guess how the program is designed, it's not designed haphazardly, it's or randomly, it's designed by scholars and professors and practitioners in real life who actually simplifies everyday's life context and situations in court or in a community, or as Kafi and Kafi, I guess that was in Philippines maybe, or maybe Indonesia, I don't remember, but you're absolutely true. In certain countries, people think that Quran is the book that we use in funerals, okay, because they didn't have the chance that someone reads with them or let them understand. So if you want a true understanding of equity and equality, of mercy, of coming closer to knowing God more than even, just worshiping or being afraid of God. Because once how we are as human beings, when someone tells us that I love you, I'm accepting you the way you are. I didn't create you to be beaten or to be financially imprisoned, or not to be allowed to do this or that because you're a woman. No, it's not the case. So getting closer to the true notion of God, to the true description and the true criteria of how a good human being is, and how that's not far from what does it mean to be a good Muslim, whether a man or a woman. So you have a chance to renew your faith, your understanding, your knowledge, your education, because Tia was asking about our education. And Tia, it's not like, again, very fixed on being lawyers. It's actually from different backgrounds. And like we had a combination that no way on earth, like I was sitting to the daughter of the first Muslim senator in Philippines. And like, the friendship, as Ambreen said, after that we met, we did work together after this, because this is what the program has allowed us to see. It opened many doors, as I call it, to the human galaxy. You are connecting not just with people, you're connecting with locations, with ideas, with concepts that allow us to say, oh my God, how lucky I am, or oh my God, what's happening around me in the world. So I guess that's my true message. Don't miss the chance, and you will be free to ask questions, and that's the best of it. So thank you so much, Rama.
One thing I want to jump in, which people may not understand, is that generally the makeup of the class is half American and half all over the world. So that's why we keep talking about, exposure to a wider community. I mean, we had attendees from Tajikistan, from Pakistan, from, I think, was it Kosovo, Philippines. So it's a very global environment.
And I guess from Africa to Umbrian, many like, colleagues were from Africa, and the Middle East, I guess. I'm Middle Eastern American, so yeah, this covers it. Mhm.
Yeah, we do try hard to have a great mix so that you are meeting people that you might not necessarily have ever met in your life, and really interacted with people that you have never met. And it's a great mixture of people. It's like a diversity of ethnicities, cultures, ages, uh, educational stuff. Because there would be some senior citizen in her 70s who might have only finished through ninth grade, but she would drop knowledge in the middle of and you'd be like, I would never have gotten that anywhere else. Like, I would never have talked to her anywhere else but in this class. And I think that's the beauty of LLSP, is that you don't know where you're going to get your next nugget of knowledge, whether it be from our professors and instructors or fellow classmates. I mean, I know that I purposely did it, and I know that my predecessor did too. We shuffled where people sat so that you weren't just sitting with people that you might have something in common with. So we were scattering the US based people with international based people so that you wouldn't just be talking, oh, this person speaks French too, I'm going to speak French with them and ignore everybody else. So we really want to get the sisterhood engaged, to spend time to really get to know people. So I want to give each speaker a last chance to say something about LLSP or even something about what they're currently doing, because I think it's so important for the bigger Karama community to realize that once they leave LLSP, it wasn't like, oh, I did LLSP and great. It's like, I did LLSP and now this is what I'm doing that's so fascinating that you want to share with our community. So Amberine, I'll start with you.
Well, I could go on and on about KARAMAH and its impact on my life. I'll give like one small example of that, and I'll say one brief thing about what I'm doing now. I had mentioned that I apply KARAMAH to my everyday life, and I was just having this conversation with my parents about their will and trust and estates and what they want to do in terms of leaving the inheritance. And that's something that we learned about in KARAMAH that I was able to really feel empowered enough to talk about from a different perspective. So I just wanted to mention that one thing as an add-on to what I said earlier. So in terms of what I'm doing, so I mentioned I do climate and clean energy work. I mentioned I work on, on implementing the Paris Agreement. So climate change is a huge topic. And as I understand it, it's a big topic here at the UN, the specific, topic or theme of this conference. So one of the things that we look at is what is the most effective and fast way to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions or carbon emissions. So one of the goals of the Paris Agreement is to get the average global temperature below 1.5 degrees Celsius. And the reason for that is the broad scientific consensus is if we move beyond that, we will enter into climate disasters. We're already seeing extreme weather events. We're already seeing people displaced because of climate change. So on a day-to-day basis, this is what I do. I work primarily in Muslim countries, in large Muslim countries like Egypt, like Pakistan, like Indonesia, looking at how to help them reach their international environmental goals. And so one of the most fulfilling aspects of what I do is the spiritual alignment I feel with how I'm helping the earth and how I'm taking those verses from the Quran about stewardship of the environment and applying that to my everyday life through my career. So it's something I really love. I love to talk about it, and I love talking about it with Muslims who are interested in the environment. So I don't know if Rahma is going to provide her information to everyone, but I always say this, I always offer, if anyone ever wants to talk about working on the environment or working together, happy to do that. So, and thank you for having us here today.
Thank you. Kafi?
Okay, what I'm doing now. At Master Muhammad, we're just trying to create a safe space for anybody. We've been told that especially women, you could come to Master Muhammad and you could be comfortable. We make sure our women are comfortable. We make sure you have a space in the masjid. It's not that you're crowded out or placed in another room or anything like that. So we work to really engage people, create a space where it's not it's an open environment, within reason. But we really encourage people to come and join us, learn about our history of our community as well. So we just actually had a marriage event. So family, marriage, seniors, young people getting involved in community, build a community life, helping those in need. Those are the things that we are really focusing on at Masjid Muhammad. So if you're looking for a home, a masjid home, come and try to join us, visit us, So that's basically what I'm really up to right about now.
All right, Sarah, you, and I think you want to share a picture.
Yeah, I would love to. I'm not sure if I can share a screen. Yeah, this picture is one of the the beautiful picture. Look at the group faces, and yeah, you can tell first that we are happy. Okay. And second, you can tell that the group is diverse, and this is actually Rahma's father. In the middle was Dr. Aziza and Zuhra, who is Algerian, and our scholar Ghada. I mean, many beautiful women, many beautiful faces. This brings me happiness. So maybe this will be encouraging for many participants to be wanting to be in such a combination with diverse groups. I definitely second everything that was said about, you know, how the seeds that were planted at the program, it is being the foundation for many of what I'm doing, many aspects of the work that I'm doing right now. So Thrivers on the Move again is there to address the gap for economic justice for women. And Thrivers on the Move has adapted many of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Goal number 1, no poverty. Goal number 3, for good health and well-being. Goal 4, quality of education. Goal 5, gender equity. Goal 8, decent work and economic growth. And finally, goal 17, partnerships to achieve social impact. So we made sure that our compass is there in order to include everyone, with a special focus on women, especially those with background of sexual and gender-based violence, on immigrants, on minorities, underserved communities, African American communities, Indian American communities, in order to offer this kind of fulfilling career path as well as entrepreneurial career path. So from here, I guess I'm focusing on equity and equality in its true meaning. And one, I just want to tell as a gender studies trainer that one aspect that tells us about the success of a project of economic empowerment for women is whether we are including young men and men. And it has a huge impact when you have the husband working with a woman on a honeybee farming project, and both of them are having an income. Also, that changes the whole mentality about how you see the woman, your wife or your sister, or the neighbor next door. So I'm so blessed that I have attended this program, and I guess I will keep on relying on its true notions and the correct ones for doing social justice. For right now I'm working with a group of 52 families, Afghan refugees, newcomers who came lately to the United States, and empowering women is a big aspect to it. Telling them about Islam, and they are, Sarah, oh my God, you're still wearing hijab, you're still covering. Why didn't you take it off? Because they just notice things, and then you just explain to them that it's a choice, and that you are allowed here to wear it or not to wear it. It's okay. So please let me just maybe extend this invitation to send them a welcoming note. I shared with you the website in the chat, thriversonthemove.org, and I will share your words with them. And maybe, who knows, one of them, or maybe more and more, can attend this program and be empowered, as we are all empowered. And Rahma, thank you so much for organizing and orchestrating the program. Okay. And I know you have been calling for us in order to come back from the break, or to not eat a lot of food or whatever. But thank you so much for being there, the backbone, together with everyone administering that program. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. This has been a wonderful morning kickoff for our Monday morning. It was like our own cup of coffee to really get us started. We are so excited. If you are interested in LLSP, please check out our website. There's a place that if you're interested in the Law and Leadership Summer Program, there's a place for you to click and leave your information so we can contact you when we release information about this summer's program. So thanks to all my speakers. I really appreciate you guys being such wonderful examples of alumni of our program. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day and a wonderful UNCSW. Have a great day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.
Welcome, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you.